Hi guys, it's been a hot minute since my last project, but I have returned. In this video I'm going to show you how I created these gothic hanging ornaments. I loved making these, so let's get started. I created the coffin shape in light burn and I cut it out on 3mm MDF using my laser cutter. I have the Sculpt S10. By the way, all details in this video will be in the description, so please check it out. The next step was to create the pattern relief on the surface of the wood. For this I used a stencil, again tools in the description, and modelling paste, which I get from The Range. For those who don't know, The Range is a cheapish craft store here in the UK. I use my trusty palette knife, again from The Range, and I use that to scrape the paste through the stencil. You do have to be careful when doing this because the stencil can stick to the palette knife as you pull up, and the paste can seep below the stencil and it can ruin the edges of the pattern. I still do this mistake though, so don't worry if you do. When you've covered as much as you want, carefully lift the stencil back and you've got that awesome relief. To tidy up the edges, just use your craft knife to skim along them and then take off that excess. This paste dries pretty quickly with a light blast from a heat gun, but it still takes a couple of hours to completely harden for it to be painted. So I use the heat gun until it looks dry and then I'll leave it somewhere for it to completely harden for a few hours. I left this one to dry overnight so I could film the rest in daylight. It's nice and sturdy now, so it's time to paint it black. I use Winsor & Newton black gesso, or is it gesso? Gesso? For all my craft paintings. It dries flat and matte and it goes a long way. I highly recommend it. I'll try and find it for you guys in the description, but if it's a stupid price on Amazon, I won't link it. I get mine from The Range. Again, everything is from The Range, but my local store has got rid of all of their Winsor & Newton mediums and paints, so I'll probably have to journey to the next town over for their range. Once I've painted one side, I'll wait for that to dry before I paint the other side and the edges. That way at least I'm not getting paint everywhere and I'm not pulling it up from previously painted areas. Okay, so now comes my favourite part, using Finnabair waxes to colour the pattern. I always use my finger to apply these. I feel like I have more control over the application, but you can use brushes or brayers, I think. But these waxes smell so nice. If you have them, you'll know what I mean. So it's kind of no biggie if my finger is stained, but it smells nice. And let me just interject here to say, if you like this video or you're enjoying it and you're learning, please hit the like button, and if you'd like to comment and subscribe, that would help me out immensely. I'm trying to get back on the ladder in the YouTube algorithm because I have been missing for a while. But yes, thank you very much if you do so. Back to the video, I pick out another colour to use. By the way, I rarely plan my colours. I wing it. I choose the chaotic method of just seeing what goes and what doesn't, and if it doesn't, I can paint it black and start again. I also sometimes give these waxes a couple of coats to increase their vividness, and also if I've squeezed out too much from the tubes, I'll try and use as much as that as possible because I can't save it. It's like acrylic paint, once it's out the tube, that's it. And I hate wasting this wax, which is why I much prefer the tins over the tubes, but the tins are really hard to find, so if you can find the tins, get them. Put that little coffin somewhere where the wax can completely dry and start on the embellishments. I've cut these words out using my laser engraver again, and because I want to sell these ornaments on Etsy, I made sure to use a font I had commercial license for. Always make sure that if you sell anything on Etsy, you are selling it legally, and fonts obviously have a license, either commercial or a personal use, so make sure you know what you are using. After I painted these letters black, I let them dry. I used the Finnabair white pearl wax on them. It really pops on black. I also used my palette knife to clean up the edges. The white wax is a bit bitty. Maybe I got an imperfect tube, but it leaves tiny clumps on the edges, so I like to go around and clean those up so the letters still look nice and crisp. Once everything is painted and dried, it's time to put them all together. I used Modge Podge for the glue, although at first I was just dabbing it on the back of the embellishments before realising it'd be much easier to slap it on the coffin surface and just press the letters on that way. If you can't tell, I do have shaky hands. I find it really hard to line things up, like with these tweezers. It's quite hard for me. And lining things up straight is frigging hard too. I would have used the piece of wood I cut them out of as like a stencil. I've seen quite a few crafters do that. But I had to cut some of the letters from different pieces of wood as I used plywood, and due to the knots, I believe, in the wood, not all of the letters cut out as cleanly, so I couldn't use some letters. And all that's left to do is just add the ribbon. You can use string or whatever you have to hand. I like this black ribbon. I've used it in previous ones I've done. I measured it against one of my others just so that they were the same size or the same length. Complete the knot at the top and you're all done. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or suggestions, just holler in the chat. I'll do my best to answer the questions. I'm aiming to get back to a schedule, so keep an eye out. Hopefully I'll have another video soon. Please show that subscribe button some love, and I'll see you next time.